Hi, it's Alaska Granny. If you've been to the grocery store lately, perhaps you're asking yourself, are food shortages getting worse? And I think the answer is yes. I don't know what's happening where you are, but the shelves are becoming more and more bare. They're fronting more products so that there's one row on the front and there's nothing in the back, and lots of areas are just completely bare. And you can't blame the store. They're not getting the products that they want, and the employees are trying to offer you what they have. And that's one of the consequences of food shortages that we have to consider is, if we can't get what we want, are we willing to buy what is available? I think the first reason is because warehouses have less products, less food available. I think warehouses have had a stockpile in the back where the grocery stores don't have it, but the warehouses might. But I think they're beginning to clear out all of the excess that they've had in the back of the warehouse, because if you look at some of the products in the store now, they're nearly out of date, which means they've been sitting somewhere for quite some time. And buying foods that are nearly past their expiration date, which it's really not expiration, it's best by, use by, sell by date, but they're not the freshest foods that you want to be adding to your prepper pantry. You want to be buying the newest, freshest foods so that you can add them in the back of your prepper pantry and they will last longer. And if you've noticed the dates on foods like I have, foods that you've been stockpiling for a while, the dates are not adding up to it's a new stock in the store. The dates are the same date that they've been having for quite some time in the store. And so you're continuing to buy the exact same product. It isn't being circulated through the stores, and maybe it's not supplied to the stores, but the food is not being replenished so that it's the newer, fresher food. Stores are also being supplied from the warehouse according to their allocation. So if, say, the warehouse had whatever the 100% of the product they had, and then your store specifically ordered 20% of that, they sent it to you, and that was how it worked. But now if they're only getting 60%, you're only going to get 20% of the 60%, not of the 100%. So they're having to divide it up into smaller allotments, so fewer products are going to each store. I've also read that suppliers are sending foods to the cities first and they're ignoring the smaller towns. I don't know if that's true, but it makes me wonder why some areas are saying we don't see any shortages. Everything is stockpiled just as we would like, just as we're used to, when in other places the stores are obviously having fewer and fewer products on hand. You realize this is not the fault of the store. The stores are not trying to deceive you. The stores are offering you the supplies that they have. They can only sell to you the products that they receive. They can order what they want, but it doesn't happen. They don't get it. It's not that they're holding it back or they're trying to trick you. So don't be angry and upset at your local store. They are trying to ease the way. And maybe they are moving out shelves and racks. Maybe they are spreading food thinner. They're doing the best they can to help you find what you want, to help you be able to shop through the supplies that are available and help you to find those things. The stores are not trying to create a panic that there are only a few things. They're trying to spread it out and make it look as ample as possible. That's part of marketing, and that's their job, to make you feel like you can have whatever you want, even if that isn't really what's going on. There are also worker shortages. COVID has proven that across all areas of workers and all areas of our country. There are shortages no matter what the industry or the business or the job. They can't get enough workers. Add to that the quagmire at the border. Canada is putting vaccine mandates on all drivers from all other countries. You must be fully vaccinated, which includes 2 vaccines and a booster, for you to be able to drive your truck or work for a trucking company across the border. There are nearly 200,000 licensed drivers between Canada and the United States. Truckers who are licensed to cross the borders either way. 20% of those drivers do not have all of the vaccines mandated by the Canadian government. And what's happening is American drivers are not allowed into Canada, so they've been having a slow roll, or the truckers are just parking their trucks. They're refusing to cross into Canada because they don't want to be forced to do something they don't want to do. It seemed at first that the Canadian drivers were going to be exempt. Canadian drivers don't have to have a vaccine, but they can cross into America. But then suddenly they're saying, well, wait a minute, no, you can't come back unless you quarantine for 14 days. Drivers aren't going to drive their trucks into America to have to quarantine for 14 days and be completely out of work, and when they return home. That's not logical. And when you figure 20% of the drivers don't meet the specifications on either side of the border, you're going to have a problem. The American government is also seeming to retaliate by saying, I think it's January 22nd, that they're going to be requiring vaccine mandates at the border as well. Which is interesting that they're requiring that of truck drivers on the northern border, but they're basically not requiring anything at the southern border, so it doesn't make sense. So are we going to face more food shortages? And the answer is absolutely yes. Another factor to keep in mind is China, which has 25% of the world's population, has been stockpiling 70% of the world's grain. Let that sink in for a while. China is buying up grains, corn, wheat, rice, barley from all over the world, and they are stockpiling it in China for their people, for their products. And that's something that you need to definitely be aware of. Keep that in mind when you go to the store and you're looking for grain products. People are reporting shortages on bread, yogurt, chicken, beef, eggs, onion, garlic, peppers, fresh produce to meat, all the dairy products, cat food, and over-the-counter medication. If you've been trying to buy over-the-counter medication, especially for your children, you'll see that it is just in very short supply. So if going forward in cold and flu season and just the unknown future, if you don't have those types of items, you need to make sure that you have the food, the toiletries, the over-the-counter medicines, the things that you rely on so that you can make the best of every single day of your life. That's why we're preppers. We want to have those things on hand. So even if you can't get to the store, or the stores are closed or simply empty, it's not a disaster emergency for yourself and your family, because you can go into your own stockpile and provide the basic necessities, which gives you time to figure out what to do next in a huge emergency situation. It's very comforting to know that you have the things that you need and you can provide them for your family. You can take care of yourself and your family, and nothing is going to be a huge emergency, something that you didn't go to your pantry or your stockpile cabinet and have that on hand. It only makes sense to want to have those things on hand so that you can take care of yourself and your family. When you do go to the store, think of it as a scavenger hunt. What are the things that I do want? Where can I find them? And if I can't find them, what can I find instead? And so maybe that will help lighten the load of worry that we have that we can't find the things that we want. Maybe you remember back your parents or your grandparents saying, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.